So I'm curious to see which one will affect yields in either way. Well, good morning, gardeners. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. It is a beautiful day in Zone 8A in North Carolina, and we are going to be working on our potatoes today. And basically, I just want you to get the best potatoes you can get out of your garden. So here's my potato bed, and it is coming right along. I mean, look at these guys. They are doing extremely well. I am pleased with the amount of growth coming out of these potatoes. So this is my bed, and then my son's bed is over here, and we'll take a look at that. He's been taking care of his bed himself, and I've been, I guide him and stuff like that, but when there's work to be done in his bed, he's coming out and he's helping me do it. I'm not making him do it, but I'm pretty proud of his potatoes as well. Check these guys out. Little man's gonna be eating some French fries, I bet. Look at this. That's just amazing. So we've been doing some maintenance on these, and I just kind of wanted to go over a little bit about what we're doing for our potatoes and how we're keeping them going. Now, as much as I'd like to stand here and keep showing you his potatoes, I'm gonna get out of the sun and go back to mine where it's a little bit in the shade, and we're actually gonna talk about that a little bit as well. And there's a reason why we separated the two beds so far apart. So this one's gonna get a lot of morning sun, and this one's gonna get a lot of afternoon sun, and we're gonna talk about that too. We came in last night and we got another load of dirt. I knew I was gonna have to bring in some dirt for this part, but we hilled our tomatoes. And there's, I've had some confusion with myself in the past. So over the past 2 years, I've really tried to hill more and more. And so yesterday we put on about 3 inches of soil on here, and that'll be the final hilling for the potatoes. We've done it twice now. So we did it a couple weeks ago, and then we didn't have any more soil left. So we actually had to come in, bring in more soil to get a good hilling, because the potatoes are actually gonna come all the way out from the stem. So we wanna get as much on there as possible. So, and you can see when I say hilling, I mean, look at that, that's hilling. So you can definitely see there's a hill, and the soil was here before. So you can see how much we put on here. So in theory, the potatoes should all be growing in this area here. Now, I do believe the cat will approve though. I'm pretty sure. She's apparently taken a vegetarian break from her morning hunts. I'm gonna look from the top down. You can kind of see how if we separate the 3 rows, we went in a zigzag pattern through, and that was just to maximize the space in here as much as possible. So what we did is when we came in and we actually hilled them, because we brought in dirt, we just put in the dirt like on each side of the plant going down the row, trying to keep it as separate as possible. I mean, would you look at this? Something came in here last night and dug. They ain't gonna find nothing though. But then we came through, and once we put the dirt in here, we'd come through and then we would just scoop it up on top. And then I told him to pat it down, so him referring to my son, so you could actually see where it was hilled. So when we hill them too, I actually forgot to do this last night because I was in a rush, but we like to side dress with some fertilizer too. And I actually don't use any kind of special fertilizer. I just use, right now I'm using Biotone. And so this is I believe it's an 855 mixture, so it has a little bit higher nitrogen in it, which is good because we want to get a little bit more growth on the top, and nitrogen will naturally release into the soil and deplete with water. So we're just going to come in and sprinkle it along the side, and then I'm going to scratch it into the surface. Now, because this is organic fertilizer, it actually takes time for it to break down. So each time we hill them, we're putting on more fertilizer, so we get that continuous drip of fertilizer on here. And then also what it'll do is it'll start to prime the soil for the next planting that we do after this, once they're done. Now I got this trellis back here, which makes it a little bit difficult, but we're gonna be planting on it soon as well. Probably in the next week, we'll be putting our cucumbers on. So we wanna make sure that we start to get that soil primed for it as well. So here comes the part where you say, hey Ben, what the hell do you mean scratch it in? Well, I'm gonna show you. So it's basically exactly what it sounds like. So we wanna have, with the organic fertilizers, you wanna have good soil to fertilizer contact. So what we'll do is we'll come in once we've side dressed everything, then we get our trusty hoe here. And this is my favorite new hoe. This is a Warren hoe, so it's good for making furrows and working in tight places and stuff like that. And then we just scratch it into the surface like this. Just by doing that, we're automatically making good soil contact with the fertilizer. We're kind of mixing it in a little bit. Now, if we wanted to be perfect about it, what we would have done is put the fertilizer down and then hill it, but we didn't do that. I think that's a really good takeaway from everything is like, so what if you didn't do it perfect? Who cares? Get the fertilizer on it and just work it into the ground. I mean, you don't have to do everything absolutely right all the time. We forget, and you just got to move on and do it. You know what I'm saying? So the other thing with this is we wanted to plant it in 2 separate areas because of the amount of sun that we get. So you can take the information that I'm about to give you and apply it to your area. But for us, because we get warm really fast in the spring, so right now it's the 2nd week of April, and it's gonna basically be in the 80s next week and then probably continuously climb after that. And potatoes don't really like hot weather. So what we've done here by doing this is these potatoes in this bed will stay relatively cool throughout the day, but when the sun comes around, they'll get warm, but it's for a short period of time. Now for the potatoes on the other area, my son's potato bed, what it's gonna do is it's gonna be warm in the mornings, but in the afternoon, it starts to get shaded around 2 o'clock or so, maybe 3. And so that really warm afternoon sun, it's gonna be protected. So I'm curious to see which one will affect yields in either way, if it's gonna be the early morning heat or the afternoon heat. So we're gonna have to look and see, and that's why in my area, we have to start our potatoes earlier and really get them up and going because we're racing against the clock to get a good harvest. And it doesn't mean we can't get a good harvest, and it doesn't mean that if you don't do any of this, you won't get a harvest. But we wanna get as much as possible because these potatoes are gonna take a while in this bed. They've been in right now about 60 days, roughly. So we're looking at another 40 days before we can look to see when they're ready. And now they'll tell us when they're ready because the potato plants will start to die off, the tops will, then we can go dig them up and do it, you know, and harvest all the potatoes around it. But we also, because of the time of year, don't have to water them as much. And this method of growing these in the shade, we actually have the water turned off on this bed because we've been getting a lot of rain. So we haven't watered this bed by us in about 2 weeks. Now everything else gets watered every 3 days, but these have only been watered by rain. Same with the ones over there. Now we've got a couple days of heat coming up, so we'll probably water them once, and then we've got another rainstorm coming where we're gonna get another inch of rain. So we're just gonna let the good Lord water them himself and then just kind of keep on top of it because we don't want our potatoes to rot. That would be the worst, is to pull out rotten tomatoes, or potatoes, excuse me. Since we're in like a testing mode right now to see how they're gonna perform, what do you guys think? Do you think bed A is gonna do better than bed B? So cool in the day, warm in the evening, warm in the morning, and cool in the evening. Which ones do you guys think will be better? Let us know in the comments below. And for all I know, it may not even matter, but we're gonna find out, right? And there's other variables that will affect our harvest for sure, but we're gonna try and control each one as we see fit and kind of go that way. Now, since we're kind of talking about temperature a little bit, I wanna show you the effect on some plants. I put 2 zucchinis in the greenhouse and I put 1 squash in a pot out front, and we just hit 37 degrees the other day. So I was out here covering tomatoes and stuff like that. It was supposed to be like 45 as a low, but as usual, the weatherman was wrong. I wish I had that job because if I was wrong, I'd get paid, but that's neither here nor there. So let's look at these 2 and see what the temperature has done for these plants. It's pretty interesting to see. So the pot out front, it's definitely gotten another leaf and it looks okay. There's nothing wrong with this plant. It's growing, but it definitely got cool. I didn't actually cover this at all because I was like, whatever, I've got more seeds. I can put them in. But if we come into the greenhouse and look at this zucchini, Look how bigger they are, how much bigger they are. And they were planted on the same day. So it stays significantly warmer in here in the day and night. So I think I checked in during the day. It's been getting in here right now around 83 degrees. And in the evening when it was 37 degrees that night, it was 42 degrees in here. And it was like 62 during the day, and it was like 78 to 80 degrees inside. So, and we were able to close the door and everything and keep it a lot warmer and trap that heat. But just looking at how that heat and that temperature fluctuation affects us is very eye-opening for us. So we're gonna keep on this method, and I think what we're gonna learn from this is that we can actually start planting in the greenhouse earlier and earlier for summer, because I'm not totally expecting everything to last all summer. But what I'm hoping for, especially for like your squashes and zucchinis, maybe I can get them up and going and get like a quick harvest out of there before it gets too hot. I may be completely wrong, I don't know. But that's kind of the thought process behind this. So this year we're kind of testing it out, looking to see, and I wanted to plant these specifically for that reason. The tomatoes and stuff in there are doing good too, and I think that temperature really did help. So the moral of this story is to get more potatoes, put more dirt, and just don't be afraid to pile it on there, and even cover some of the leaves if you have to. And then you're gonna get as much as you can possibly get. Goodbye.